All right, class, today we're going to be talking about sexual education. I know it could be a pretty interesting topic, so I please ask that you remain mature through this entire presentation. It is important for your future safety and health. So what is sex? Sex is the interaction of sexual body parts. The health definition is genitalia between humans. What does sex do? Reproduces. It makes new people. It's how we keep the human population going. So first we're going to talk about the male sexual anatomy. So the male sexual anatomy includes a penis. This is external. So are the testicles. These are also external. The penis it's the main male organ that is used during sex, and it contains the urethra, which is a tube inside that transports urine and semen and sperm out of it. The testicles, they're inside the scrotum. The scrotum is the skin, the sac that holds your two testicles in. And the testicles produce what we call sperm. Sperm is what fertilizes an egg. I'll get to the egg later. Once those two connect, that's when reproduction begins. There's the epididymis. It's attached to testicles, and what it'll do is when your testicles store or create sperm cells and there's an excess, it'll go into that place. It's like an excess sac. It's used for storage. And then what happens is during sex, you have what's called the vas deferens, and it transports all the sperm cells from the epididymis to the urethra, which will then exit the penis. Question?
At what point can a male be able to produce at their age?
At what point can a male be able to produce? It's really when puberty starts to begin. Males can experience it as early as 11, 12 years old. In some cases, even earlier. But most males actually start later. Females begin their puberty stage earlier, before men. And what will often happen is you'll have something called a wet dream. You'll wake up in the morning and you'll have semen in your underwear. I know. It's pretty uncomfortable, pretty gross. It's part of puberty. Men will also begin to obviously grow, but they'll begin to also have higher levels of testosterone run through their body. They'll start to develop facial hair, other hair in other areas of the body. These are all also signs that you're going through puberty. Question? Yes?
Why is it women start puberty before men?
Why do women start puberty before men? They really don't have an answer. Like, we don't really know yet, but it's just the case. Like, women just have their first menstruation cycle around, they can have it between 9 to 12 years old. It really is all person to person through genetics. It's all at random. Some people are really late, some people are really early, some people are what would be considered like your average time, normal time. Okay. So the last part of the male sexual anatomy is the seminal vesicle, and this releases semen, which is the substance that comes out and the sperm is in it. It is the white sticky substance. It's often filled with like glucose and sugars. So the semen can transfer and move easier through the vaginal canal. So, yes, question?
Is there only like one sperm cell that gets released per?
So this might sound crazy, but there are actually billions of cells that you produce every hour in your testicles, billions. So, and it only takes one to create a fetus.
Where do they all go if they?
The ones that don't fertilize an egg, they sadly die. They just don't live, they don't make it. There's a slang that's often called fastest swimmer, and reason this slang is often used is your sperm cells are like little tadpoles. and they swim through the vaginal canal into the ovaries and fertilize an egg. The one sperm cell that fertilizes the egg first is essentially the winner, because that's the one sperm cell that will develop into an actual baby in the womb. Now on to the female sexual anatomy. The vagina. It's called the birth canal, or it's a long hollow tube. This is where the penis inserts during sexual intercourse. This is where sperm enters, goes through all the way up and fertilizes an egg. The uterus, it's the womb, or it's where baby develops during pregnancy. The uterus is pretty much just a whole hollow sac. There's literally really nothing in there. It's only meant for where, like, storing the baby, feeding the baby, developing the baby inside. The cervix. Now the cervix lays between, you can see here, lays between the vagina and the uterus. Cervix, what it does is it helps filter out stuff. It'll help filter out menstrual blood when women are on their periods. It also allows semen to pass through to fertilize an egg. The ovaries. The ovaries are these little almond-shaped sacs. They're actually the size of about an almond. There's usually 2 of them. Some women have only one, which is what they're born with. But a normal woman has 2. And these are where the eggs sit. Now, once again, the egg is what is fertilized during sex. That's where the sperm goes. And the ovaries produce and hold them there. Now, fallopian tubes, which are these weird looking things that come along, it'll connect the ovary to the uterus. Now, why does it need to connect the ovary to the uterus? Why do we think? Do we have any questions, any answers?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Why do we think that the fallopian tube needs to connect the ovary to the uterus? Why do we think that?
I have no idea.
Because maybe it has to transfer something to
Eggs
vagina.
can travel.
Correct. So yes, when the sperm fertilizes an egg, it'll be fertilized in the ovary. Now, a baby cannot grow in something that's the size of an almond. How big is a baby when it comes out? Pretty big, right?
Probably like 7 pounds.
7 pounds? I'd say it's pretty average weight, maybe a little smaller. But when the egg's fertilized, what will happen is the egg will get carried through the fallopian tubes up and into the uterus, and then the egg will continue its development and fertilization in the uterus. Question:
How long does it take for the sperm to get to the egg?
how long does it take for the sperm to get to the egg?
Yeah, like, they're so small, it must take a decent amount of time to travel that distance, right?
It can take between a few minutes to a few hours. Really depends.
Okay, thank you.
Question:
Is there a way to stop the sperm from getting to the egg?
no. Once it's inside, really no. There are certain things you can do, though, to prevent the sperm from getting to the egg. I'll get to that later. Hold off your question until later if you still have it. Now, the other part of sex is sexually transmitted diseases and infections. What are they? Well, they're similar to like what you'd call the flu. They could be viruses, they could be bacteria, but they attack mostly, for the most part, your genitals, but they can affect your whole body. But these are only transmitted and gotten through sex. Question, yes, Cam.
Okay, so if they're only transmitted through sex, but someone had to have it, they had to start somewhere. So can someone have it without having sex?
For most cases, it's actually like we're actually unsure how certain sexually transmitted diseases and infections began. Similar to how COVID started, how there's a whole dilemma how it started, and we're not still really sure to this day where and how it started. We have ideas, but we don't know for sure. We really don't know. There's some theories that it can have come from a monkey. It could have come from different animals. It could have just developed. It could have mutated, somehow developed in a human, and then it started from there. But STDs and STIs, are often transmitted through unsafe sex or unprotected sex is another name for it. Most are treatable, but some are lethal and more dangerous. Has anybody ever heard of HIV? All of us here? Good. It's important that we know what HIV is. Can anybody tell me what HIV is?
No,
It's a sexually transmitted disease.
Yes?
AIDS.
AIDS? No. AIDS is actually a later stage of HIV.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, so HIV begins, and what it'll do is it'll eat away at your white blood cells. Does anybody know what our white blood cells do?
Fight diseases.
Fight disease is correct. They're the main response and attacking system in our immune system. They're what attack, kill, and fight off all of our diseases and infections that are in our body. What HIV does is it eats at or kills your white blood cells. So if we don't have any white blood cells to fight off a basic common cold, how are we going to live? We won't. We die. And AIDS is diagnosed when there's below a certain amount of white blood cells in your body. That's when you're diagnosed with AIDS, there's pretty much a small chance you're going to live a lot longer. Carson, question.
How do we cure it?
There is no cure to STD like HIV. We still are looking for a cure for it. There is no cure. There have been technologies that have come out to help, but these procedures and medications are often very expensive. So poor people or less fortunate people that don't have the money to pay for these treatments often die. How do we prevent getting HIV or say other STDs and STIs? Well, we can use things like condoms. Do we know what a condom is?
Yes.
Yes?
I know what it is.
Cole, can you tell me what a condom is?
It's a plastic thing that you slip over your penis before
Latex.
sex.
It's not plastic. It is made of latex usually.
I'll learn it later.
There are some brands that don't use latex for those with latex allergies. But yes, it is essentially a tube that you slip over the penis before having sex. And what it'll do is it'll trap all the semen and sperm that is released when a male reaches his ejaculation point during sex. There's other things than condoms that can help, like an IUD. Does anybody know what an IUD is? Cam? What is it?
It's like a plastic thing shaped like a T that they put in the vagina.
Yes. So, Carter, yes.
They go in the arm too.
Yes, they could go in the arm. They could go in the ovary, in the vagina. It's a procedure that women get. But what these things do is they just kill all the sperm that enter it. So it prevents, obviously, any sperm from reaching the egg and fertilizing it. Now, IUDs do not prevent most STDs and STIs, but what it will prevent is an unwanted pregnancy. So safe sex not only prevents STDs and STIs, but it also prevents unwanted pregnancies. We want to be safe in bed. We don't want to have kids when we're not ready, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, Cole. I'm really glad you agree with that. Carter, question.
If it's in your arm, how does it kill the sperm?
If it's in your arm,
The IUD is in your arm.
I'm not a doctor.
Okay, I apologize.
That's it. If you have a question for your doctor, professional, you could ask, or I can get back to you later with that. If you'd like to
Okay.
talk to me after class about it,
I would love to.
I can do some research and help you figure out that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I have a video, just a short, about minute 30 seconds. It's an animation video. It shows what happens when the sperm first enters the vagina, all the way up until it fertilizes the egg, and then where the egg is carried. Okay? So I'll show you this video.
While you release only a single egg each month, your partner releases millions of sperm in a single ejaculation, all with an eye on that single prize. But only one of those sperm will be crowned the victor. As soon as one lucky sperm cell succeeds in penetrating the egg, the egg immediately undergoes a chemical reaction that prevents other sperm cells from following suit. Then, the chromosomes carried by the sperm and egg come together, and the egg is officially fertilized. The fertilized egg then begins a rapid descent to the uterus. Over the next 7 days, the human embryo undergoes multiple cell divisions in a process called mitosis. At the end of this transition period, the embryo becomes a mass of very organized cells, called a blastocyst. Once the embryo reaches the blastocyst stage, approximately 5 to 6 days after fertilization, it breaks out of its protective covering and begins the process of implantation in the uterus. To find out how your baby grows and develops each month, please watch my next video.
Any questions from that video? I know there's a lot of scientific terms like mitosis in there. That is not really important. The main reason I want to show you this video is so you can kind of visualize and see the process of a sperm cell fertilizing an egg and how the development of a baby begins in the womb. Any questions? Cole, you have any questions?
How long does it take to form a full baby?
A full baby?
Yeah.
Well, most babies are born between at the 9-month mark. Obviously, you'll have premature babies. Some come out early, some stay in later. But baby usually is fully developed around the 9-month mark. 9 months from the fertilization.